Hi, everybody. Welcome to Two Off the First. Great to have you here with us for our Tuesday show on February the 17th, 2026. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for being here. We've got a couple of things to talk about. An interesting weekend, obviously, in the world of golf. Comeback story that's unique to the sport in Anthony Kim. And then what a great Sunday it was at Pebble Beach for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I want to talk about that a little bit, but also the back-to-back nature of the signature events that we have this week with Riviera and then last week with Pebble Beach, and how that should be separated or how that might be able to be worked out a little bit better on the schedule. So let's start with Anthony Kim. He shot a final round 63 at the Grange Golf Club in Adelaide, Australia to win LIV Golf Adelaide. He beat Jon Rahm by 3 shots on 23 under total in the 72-hole event. Bryson DeChambeau, who I can't remember if he was in the lead or not. I didn't pay that much attention to it. But he was definitely in contention going into the final round. Shot 74 in the final day. Played himself out of it a little bit, down to the, I think, tie for 4th position, something like that. But Rahm struggled. He shot 71 on a golf course that played kind of firm and pretty fast. It was, sandbelt golf, that type of thing. Very fun to watch that type of golf course in action when it plays the way it's supposed to. And yet still, the guys were scoring on it. The pins are pretty easy. LIV likes to make it easy for the players in terms of birdies and eagles, as long as you hit the greens. It's a big exercise in hitting greens. Honestly, I think that's why Jon Rahm is always there. He hits a lot of greens, and that's kind of the MO, is play smart, make birdies. Don't be aggressive, don't be dumb. That can cost you. That causes a lot of variance, right? So, a Scottie Scheffler would probably win 10 of 13 individual tournaments on LIV. Rahm, maybe not necessarily known for the same kind of level of course management, but is a similar kind of guy. That's why he always does well, but also comes up short a lot, or seems to come up short a lot on LIV. But Anthony Kim was better than everybody on Sunday, shot 63. He wins by 3, as mentioned. Incredible celebration. This is LIV Golf's biggest crowd of the year. This is their biggest event. They now call it their flagship event. They know it's their best event. It's unfortunate that it's their second event. It won't be in future years. I think first of all, they're moving venues, and second, they're moving this to later in the calendar, I guess, to try to get a little bit more buzz for it. But crowd was great for Anthony Kim. He celebrated. His daughter ran on the green. His wife ran on the green. It was interesting to me to see that, and LIV Golf put out this footage, made it available to media after the fact. But they kind of had, the kind of docu-style footage, alternate cameras and things. And a lot of players and caddies came out to the 72nd green to congratulate Anthony Kim, handshake him, congratulate him, whatever. I thought that was interesting. I don't typically see that. Not that I'm watching LIV Golf every week, very closely. However, you don't typically see that on LIV. You certainly don't see it on the other tours, but that doesn't usually happen. You don't get a parade of guys to come out and say congratulations to anyone. And I don't know if that's a reflection of a respect of what he accomplished, coming back to professional golf after basically a 14-year absence, 12-year absence, whatever it was. And, he took advantage of LIV's money spend and got himself a contract to play for a couple of years guaranteed, and it didn't work out well at all, and he had to go back to their Q school, and to his credit, he got through it. It's a wonky format, but he got through it and got one of the spots back to play in the wild card position that he was in, and then he found himself on the 4 aces starting this week because they needed someone full-time to replace Patrick Reed, who obviously left and will be on the PGA Tour in 2027 through the DP World Tour at a minimum. And they put him on the team, and sure enough, first week, he does something pretty unthinkable. He had been trending in a better direction. Toward the tail end of last season, it seemed like maybe he was starting to kind of figure out how to play a good brand of golf again. He played well in not easy scoring conditions in the Florida event, the promotions event in January, and puts it all together at the right time, at the right place, and he wins $4 million. He got himself a home pretty much for sure on the LIV Golf League in 2027. And I think you kind of have to stop there and go, okay, that's an amazing accomplishment to have left, gone away for 12 years, and a couple of years later, you figured it out. You figured out how to win again. These guys are incredible players. Even if you think the diminished talent on LIV makes it easier to win, it does. You still have to beat Rahm and DeChambeau and Joaquin Niemann, and you got to beat some good players, at least a couple, to be able to win. And that is an achievement. That is a significant achievement. It gets him official World Golf ranking points, gets him into the low 200s in the official World Golf ranking, which is basically a 600 some odd spot jump for him, which is pretty big, obviously. If he continues to play well, he could find himself in major championships. This is one of the few people for which the official World Golf ranking stuff really works well. Because, yeah, he's played some Asian Tour stuff, but primarily he's playing LIV Golf. And so his denominator is going to be the minimum divisor, divisor, depending on, I guess, whether you're looking at it as a fraction or not. But in the official World Golf ranking formula is the minimum. It's always going to be 40 unless he starts playing a whole lot more events. So every time he earns points in bulk, that could be a pretty dramatic move upward. So if he were to somehow win again, not that he could get into the Masters, he couldn't get into the top 50 in the world, but he might be able to find himself inside the top 100 pretty easily, and with another win. And if he's in the top 100, there's a decent chance the PGA of America invites him to play in the PGA Championship. That's the next probably opportunity for him, other than a potential to play in the U.S. Open. If you got into the top 3 in points, he could find himself in the U.S. Open. So that could be interesting. It could maybe find himself in a few majors this year, which would be pretty wild. Phil thinks he should be in the majors automatically because he went on LIV, and that's not true either. Eugenio Chacarra won on this tour, I think in his 4th or 5th tournament, something like that. It was relatively early on for him, and now he's not playing this week in Kenya because he just kind of needed a mental break, and that's okay. But it's not a straight line up, is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not a straight line up. It's also not a straight line down either, but definitely not a straight line up for most people. So just because he won one tournament doesn't mean he should get the world handed to him, and I think anyone with a brain really knows that. But nevertheless, I think it's a tremendous accomplishment, and in one way it's kind of a shame because if this happened on the PGA, if this happened somehow yesterday at Pebble Beach, it would probably be one of the 2 or 3 biggest stories in sports of the weekend, maybe of the month. But we don't have that. You're not going to get much of a domestic audience for this tournament, and the news of this isn't going to spread so far and wide that people are just going to start turning into LIV Golf fans en masse. That's just not how it is. And unfortunately for them, they now have a multi-week break, and then they come back and go right back to Asia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So those are tournaments people just are not going to stay up for in the middle of the night in this country, the biggest sports market by economy in the world. So it's still cool, and it's still interesting. And, I'm going to put Anthony Kim's politics, which I vehemently disagree with, on the side for a second. But for him to kind of say, hey, this is for people who are going through stuff or at their low, you can get out of it. Whether I disagree with everything else he says in terms of political statements, that is absolutely true. And I agree with that. You can climb yourself out of the deepest, darkest holes in life. And yes, it wasn't purely just pulling things out, right? Like, right place, right time, offered a lot of money to come do this, but he still clearly put in the effort to improve his golf game, to get it back to a world-class level. It took a while, as it should have, and he's done something with it. I don't pretend to mean that that's going to mean anything broader for LIV, or that he's suddenly going to become a world beater. Who knows what happens from here? But you could kind of tell things were heading in that direction. I think I checked in before I went to bed. I guess that would have been Saturday night. here in the United States. And he was hovering around the lead. It wasn't quite there yet. At that point, he's like, well, Rahm's struggling. DeChambeau's nowhere near it. Maybe this is his chance. And then woke up, and sure enough, he had done it. So these stories happen, right? That's the beauty of the sport. That's the beauty of things like Monday qualifiers and Q school. And I'm doing my Ryan French impersonation here, but if you get rid of those pathways, if you limit those pathways, then these kinds of stories don't manifest themselves every now and then. And, the same thing. I mean, there was no Monday qualifier for the Phoenix Open, for example. Cool stories can happen out of Monday qualifiers, even if they don't win. The knock on LIV, including from the official World Golf Ranking, is that it's too closed of a system. And that's because you can just sign someone off the street and they didn't do it on merit. They didn't play their way in. And yeah, Anthony Kim didn't really do it on merit. He hadn't played professional golf in a dozen years, but got a signing. But he did it on the merit of, hey, he earned his card back, or earned his opportunity in LIV Golf back. So I'm always going to openly root for more opportunities for players to break through to the next level, and whatever you think of LIV. But to have those opportunities, PGA Tour, LIV, DP World Tour, et cetera, more is better. More volatility is better. More earned volatility is better. So, congratulations to Anthony Kim on the win. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Pebble Beach and what was on Sunday. Man, what a good time that was to watch. They went off an hour early because they knew the weather was going to be a little iffy. They weren't sure they were going to get it in. They did, right? They got done a little sooner. And what a great showdown. I mean, Scottie Scheffler started the day 8 shots off the lead. He got himself to a tie for the lead with an eagle on 18. Gorgeous wind riding second shot. Little kind of lower bullet. Not very low, but lower bullet with I think he said 6-iron or 5-iron into that green. After he pummeled a drive, it rode the wind to 3 feet. Makes his third eagle of the day to close it out. Ties the lead in the clubhouse at that point. Then I think it was Minwoo Lee who got in front of him at 21 under first. Collin Morikawa, Sepp Straka, they're in the final threesome. And Sepp Straka hits the green to 10 feet. He makes the eagle, so now he ties the lead at 21 under. Collin Morikawa is just off the green with his second shot. Chips it up to, 2 feet after absolutely laying the sod over it on 14. Similar kind of thing. Second shot on a par 5. It should be an up and down. That one was harder. But hits it to 2 feet, makes the putt, and he's a winner for the first time since 2023, the Bay Current Classic. So a little bit over 2 years at this point, getting close to 2.5 years since his last win. You could tell it obviously meant a lot to him. He's had some close calls. The whole thing that happened last year with just making himself look like an oaf at Bay Hill, getting mad that he got pipped, and I don't owe you guys anything. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't have to talk to anybody. And yeah, that's technically true, but you probably lost a lot of fans in the process. But an accomplishment, it's an accomplishment. The same thing with Anthony. I disagree with everything he said about the media, but he did do the thing that he wants to do. And that jumps him up from, I think it was 11th or 12th in the world ranking to 5th. And he earned 71 world ranking points. That's a huge haul. That's going to keep him in the top 10 for a very long time to come, no matter kind of what happens the rest of the way. It's a big deal for him. Obviously, $3.6 million is nice. That's not life-changing for this guy at this point. But for a guy who has played well in this tournament in the past, and has also played well at Riviera, by the way, in the past. Great ball striker. He didn't gain strokes putting. He just marginally lost. But everything else he did very well. The ball striking was fabulous. Good enough off the tee. Iron play, fantastic. He did it, man. And you have Rory McIlroy make a charge. You had Tommy Fleetwood being there toward the end, which is he kind of fell out and then kind of came back, which was kind of interesting. I mean, just a great day of golf to watch. Pebble Beach is special. I know there are the architecture people who go, oh, no, it's only got 10 good holes. Yeah, I know it's only got 10 good holes, but because they're seaside. But the other holes were still very interesting, especially in the wind, because a lot of players could not judge the club to hit the front number. They tried to hit, especially in back pins, they tried a lot of that, and you saw them go over greens into bunkers that were pretty gnarly. Ones I didn't even remember were on parts of the golf course because they got a little too aggressive. It was a great watch. You couldn't have asked for a better Sunday. And once again, Scottie Scheffler basically participates in 3 rounds of the tournament, 2.5, I guess, this week, and almost wins. Same thing happened in Phoenix. Almost got again and again. It's almost like I know he's not doing this on purpose. He's not taking Thursday off to make it more interesting for himself. But if he can figure out first rounds, he's going to win every golf tournament he plays. And I think he will probably start to realize, hey, I've got to maybe dial in a little bit better, whatever that means for him on Thursdays. He's obviously the best golfer in the world by a mile. But even at this level, you can't play 3 rounds and win. Not against this kind of field, not against a deeper field like this one, where you had 41 of the world top 50 competing this week, and you have that again at Riviera. I wanted to say a couple thoughts about just Pebble as a tournament in the signature swing of things, right? You've got this part of the schedule now where you had Phoenix, right? You didn't have any signature events up until this week, right? Because of the Century not being there. So you had roughly a handful of regular events to determine basically the field for these 2 events through the Swing 5. And then you had the top 50 from last year. That's always predetermined. You had the Fall 10, the Aon Next 10 from the FedEx Cup Fall. So you have 5 guys move in and out basically for 2 tournaments because nobody that played their way in that wasn't already in to the first 2 got enough points from Pebble Beach to make a difference between Pebble Beach and Riviera. So now you have back-to-back signature events with a lot of the same field, right? You don't have exactly the same because sponsor exemptions are a little different, but also you don't have a field of 80 required because you have the Pro-Am component to it. So you only have 72 this week. Again, the minimum is 72. They only have 72 qualified. So I would like to see those fields higher. However, going back-to-back, I think, is kind of a downer a little bit because of that reason, the qualifying. Like, okay, well, we want to swing 5. We want things to kind of vacillate a little bit between players who can get in and not, and I just don't think there's enough room for that bump to happen by playing them back-to-back. I think this is kind of what I've come to as my position, and I think the PGA Tour sort of hinted at this. Maybe they'll get to it, maybe they won't, or maybe it'll look different than I think. But I think Pebble Beach should be a playoff event. I think Pebble Beach should be it should be first through second. Hell, it could be the championship. I don't care. It could be the tour championship. But Pebble Beach in the summer in prime time would be incredible viewing. I mean, I like watching Pebble Beach anytime, right? You can put it on any day, anytime. I'd be happy to watch it, even just a bunch of hacks playing it. But it would be a better tournament, a greater venue in the playoffs than it is a signature event in February. So what I would like to see is move this tournament. And yes, that may mean the end of the Crosby clam bake. It's not even really a clam bake now. You don't have celebrities. Not as many celebrities. You don't have many kind of public figures in the Pro-Am anymore. Keegan Bradley won with his partner Mary Meeker. Mary Meeker is a tremendously wealthy person who is an investor, basically a venture capitalist, and most of the names that were in that field of 80 were rich people with a lot of money to spend, and whether it was they owned a distributorship or they were a venture capitalist or whatever. They weren't public figures. There weren't that many of them. I mean, your most public figures were probably Steve Young, Paul Gasol, and Travis Kelce that were playing in it. And those types of folks have kind of been not muscled out, but they're just not willing to spend the same amount of money as billionaires and, those types of folks to play in this type of thing. So it kind of has diminished the value of it already. There's no Saturday anymore. It's a Thursday, Friday thing. Who cares? I couldn't really care much about it. I cared less about it now than when it used to be 156 players in 3 courses. At least there was kind of, I don't know, a different buzz, a different feel to it, even though that got grading and that Saturday telecast on CBS was the worst thing they did all year. They eliminated that obviously now, but it feels like there's just not, it's not the same juice. Put the juice back in it, put the juice back in the juice box, and make it a playoff event. Do it today. Do it now. Get rid of Memphis. I know Memphis is the home to FedEx, and they are a very, very important spender of the tour. However, Pebble Beach is more beautiful. It's greater. You guys can go low. It can mean a lot more playing Pebble Beach for 4 days in August in almost perfect conditions than what you would get this time of year. And I know the elements make it kind of fun and interesting, but Pebble Beach is one of the great American treasures of golf. No matter whether you're an architecture geek or not, what you think of the place, it's iconic in American golf. To have that kind of stuffed into a back-to-back with Riv, which is also a national treasure, that doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. And if I were going to be totally radical about this, I would say, okay, let's get rid of all the player-hosted or player legacy family-hosted signature events and make them the playoffs. Do that. End it Riv with Tiger. Have Bay Hill be the first one, although that would be almost unbearable in August in Orlando. And then have Jack's event be the second one or something like that. That would be interesting. That would be more compelling as a playoff series. I don't know. Pebble Beach is special. That's my standing opinion, and it should be in a better place than part of a doubleheader in California, where it's just kind of like, all right, we're doing it this week. It's Pebble Week, and then we just go to Los Angeles. Those places are both incredible. They deserve to stand out on islands by themselves and be treated as such on the PGA Tour schedule. Either way, we got a great week coming up at Riviera. One of the great golf courses in this country. And I hope that there is some kind of acknowledgement of obviously the horrible fires that happened there that forced the event to Torrey Pines last year. What that means to the community to have it back. Hopefully, there's a lot of public support for this tournament, and also kind of a lot of private dollars that can do some good for the people around these communities who suffered. Not everyone who's living in Pacific Palisades is swimming in money. So this community in Los Angeles is still got a long way to go, and hopefully this event can do some good to that end this week. All right, that's going to do it today on 2 at the First. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it. You can get a hold of me on social media at Ryan Ballingy or Ryan Ballingy Golf. Find me on Blue Sky at ryan.thegolfnewsnet.com if you're over there. Not on Twitter these days, but on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube as well. So thank you for listening. We'll catch you next show on Thursday. Have a great couple of days in between, and we'll get you ready for the first round at Riviera then. Talk to you then on 2 at the First.